I'm nervous, and I'm not sure why, but I am. I have a few things I wanted to start talking about, and I've been thinking about this for a long, long time, and I've always wanted to do a women's support group, a young girl support group, a group where it's important that we, women, people in general, just have an understanding of what's happening, like what's going on in our lives, in our children's lives. And for some reason, it's things like that I always focus on and want to talk about. And I'm not perfect in no way, shape, or form. But sometimes logic comes easier to people that are not book smart. And so, with that being said, and driving in a car, which is not too smart, but I'm doing a test. I wanted to talk about separation amongst parents and the effects it could have on your children, if of course you allow it to, I guess. When my sons were, I believe, 8 and 10, their dad and I divorced, and we went on to co-parent. What we did at that time was we took 2 weeks a month to be parents and 2 weeks a month to be adults. And what that meant is every other week we had our children for the full 7 days. So what that did for them was it kept a calm within them that they didn't have to, in the middle of a week, pick up, pack up, move. Of course, it caused me to shop a bit more, only because I didn't want them to have to decide amongst what was important to them or what was, like clothing-wise. So basically, underwear, socks, t-shirts. They had 2 sets, like the set for the dad's house, their set for my house. Clothes, of course, pants, shirts, everything they would possibly need for my house, everything they'd possibly need for their dad's house. And so that for us allowed us to truly parent without anger or resentment that the other one was off having weekends and and I'm not saying parents resent other parents, but when you're in a divorce situation, you tend to be angry, even though you've both come to it, or maybe one of the two. So definitely if one of the two people that have been divorced wasn't 100% down for the divorce, then there's anger there. And parenting becomes a chore when the other parent is off on their free time. It's like, why do they get to do X, Y, and Z? Why am I stuck with these children? And the truth is, in what we did was it just gave us absolute free time to live our lives for 2 weeks out of a month. And it was every other week, but it was still fun. So I knew, when my sons were with me, it was fun time. I wasn't resentful. I wasn't angry. I just loved it. It was our time. And it worked. And the things that we did to combat the negativity of the divorce, because no matter who you are, you have to say to your children, once upon a time, prior to you being on this earth, your father and I, your mother and I were in love. And we made decisions based on being in love to have children. And when the circumstances play out and you find yourself no longer in love, or the situation isn't right, or more specifically, if someone changes completely and you're like, this is not how I want to live the rest of my life, you make really important changes that affect more than just you. And that's a hard one. That's a hard decision to come to. And no one ever talks about that. No one ever says, you just say, okay, we're getting divorced. No one sits with their children and say, this is something that took a long time to come to. And what a lot of people do is stay married in loveless, non-communication relationships with anger and hate. And I know that my ex-husband and I, who happens to be a wonderful guy, the last thing we wanted on earth was to teach our children that the most incredible feeling on earth the most euphoric feeling on earth, the greatest of feelings on earth, which is love, was angry and hateful and mad. And so that was what we chose to do with our first conversations with the kids, like explaining that these weren't decisions that we made instantaneously. It takes a long time. And what we also did was we've never truly allowed our children, who are now 25 and soon to be 27, to own our divorce in terms of saying it was their fault, or that, they're not loved, or they're not, anything that kids feel, abandonment, the reason for the divorce, the hate for either or the ability to not respect the other person, and then somehow it drizzles down, and there's no open communications with your children, and they take the brunt of all the pain, and that's where it completely spirals out of control, and now you're stuck with an adult who is going to then become, what's the word I'm looking for? What is the word I'm looking for? It becomes perpetuated. It becomes, what is this word? I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but you don't want the behavior to continue. So what we did was we sat down and we said to our sons back then, we do love each other. And we love each other enough to respect the fact that we are not making each other happy in our private time, in our adult time. And because we're not making each other happy in our adult time, it's spilling over into our parenting time. And you guys are seeing something that isn't fair, and it's not right. So what is happening is we are going to separate our family in terms of mommy and daddy are no longer going to live together. That in no way, shape, or form is saying you're not going to have a mom or a dad. We are not divorcing you, is what we said specifically. We're divorcing each other. And although at this point it seems impossible to understand, we did it so that the lesson was taught to them about love. And knowing when love is exited, and when love stops being in love and turns into love and or anger or hate or whatever it turns into, once you no longer feel the connection that made you marry and then ultimately have children. And it's tough. It's a tough one. I am an abandoned child. My dad was just gone once my mom had me, and once he made it very clear that he would prefer her to take care of him over me, that he was her sole priority instead of me as a newborn. That was the end of that relationship. She was not going to have it. She just wasn't. And so when she left my dad, I was 1, I think younger. I'm not sure. She's not here. I can't verify. He's also not here on earth any longer. So however, I was raised with just this mom and my grandmother and a tribe. My grandma had tons of children, and so I come from, I try to instill in me all the things that I could have ever wanted from my childhood, in terms of communications, in terms of why he would never want to see me again, what part of me, I mean, you just take it personal when you're abandoned. You just take it like, what did I, how did this happen? I'm pretty sure I wasn't asked to be here, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter either way whether I'm here, because he just was ghost. And a lot of people have always said to me, why is the glass always half full with you, Louisa? Why doesn't that bother you? Why don't you hate him? Why don't you? And I gotta say, I think hate grows when there's no love. I was raised by a woman who loved me. She loved me beyond. And she struggled a lot with so much of her inner peace, her inner heart, depression, all kinds of things. And from that, we learned, I learned what unconditional love was from this person. And some days, in the latter part of her life, and even in the middle when I was an older teenager, when I became a mom, I felt like at times I became her mom. But she gave me a loving heart. She never spoke ill about this man who was just like, I'm done. She never gave me a reason to dislike him. And she always allowed me to have my opinion and to honor what I was feeling within. And I've always done that with my children. And I guess what I'm trying to get at here is there is no right or wrong, and divorce is horrible for everybody involved. But the last persons who should have to suffer from that are your children. Just own it. Take what belongs to you and own it. And go to them and allow them to understand that at best, they're going to see peace within each parent. And if the time is right, and if we all get to a place in life where, a serendipitous moment occurs, the two parents can find two people. So the mother finds a new spouse, a new partner. The dad finds a new partner, a new spouse. And now this 2 turns to a 4. And how could 4 people loving you be a bad thing, So I guess the gist of this whole entire experiment is that I'm just trying to say here and now that if you're really struggling with your children who are going through the divorce process with you, don't let them. It's not their divorce. No matter. Don't let them feel your hurt. Don't let them feel your pain. And make them be the priority that they were on the day you conceived them. Make them be the priority they were when they were in your womb. I guess I'm talking to moms. Because dads are wonderful beings, and I've been blessed. My son's father will always be one of the greats for me. He showed me what being a dad was about, because I didn't have one. And so, but I know that mothers, a strong mom, a strong thinking mom, a powerful mom, has the power to change a broken heart within their child based on their actions, based on how they go on with their life. And never should they ever, ever, ever take their hurt and their pain and allow their child to resonate within it. Cry alone, scream alone, take a long ride. You can tear up, but you can walk out of a room. You could be angry at somebody who's done something horrible at you, and your children, their father, if their father's done something, their father, they don't need to feel it, because no matter what happens on this earth, the blood that runs between that child is an equivalent of both of you. And someday 1 or 2 are not going to be here, and you never get that time back. So women who are in this situation right now, who are dealing with hurt and pain, and weren't able to have an amicable breakup, sit down with your kids. Tell them it doesn't have anything to do with them. Tell them what you're trying to do is teach them love at a different capacity. Tell them that anger causes pains and wounds in your heart and soul that will never change and will just make you bitter. And that will spill into your life forever. Take control, moms. Help your children. Help them to understand that you are there for them. You love them. And you're sorry for the situation that is their life in this moment. But this too shall pass. And that you along with communications with them and your ex-spouse, can be something positive, can be something wonderful. And you, and only you, have the power to do that. Love your children. Tell them they matter more than anything else. And make sure when you pick a spouse or a partner that they understand that you are your children's coach. They are your number one players, and you will never play against them. And that's important too. Peace and love.